Welcome back. You know, we went to Sand Mountain, took the truck out there, railed the crap out of it, brought it back home and brought back the old single cab OBS. Starting to get the ball rolling on this again. We got the cage in. We got Dave coming over. He's gonna knock out some measurements with me and we're gonna get a plan for the outriggers because it's a little bit different than the other truck. But we got the main hoop, the halo, and the A-pillar bars all tacked in, ready to go. It's kind of hard to do a roll cage by yourself. If you're ever gonna do it, I suggest floor jacks, ratchet straps, and masking tape, and a good set of eyeballs. That's one thing I do not have is a good set of eyeballs. Yeah, I wanna get a second and talk about the fact that we made that YouTube video of the single cab out at Sand Mountain. It's doing way better than I anticipated. I'm one of the guys, high hopes, low expectations. Doing way better than we thought. You know, we have over 600,000 views collectively on Instagram throughout the build process of that, and that's pretty cool. Gaining some traction in the social media world. It's an awesome feeling. You know, this is what we wanted for so long and we're gonna keep this ball rolling. It's extremely fun. Honestly, it is. We're having way more fun building that truck than we did the C20. Stupid, I know. Changed up some plans on this truck. We are not gonna be going as big of injector as I thought we would originally. I changed my mind on that. I'm gonna be doing 250-100s and an S467.7 with a turbo kit from Michael Lucio. Shout out to my homie Michael. He builds the best T4 kits for 7.3s. If you're in the market, absolutely consider him. Pretty stoked to have him helping us out on this. So I've been talking with my buddy over at AirDog. We're getting the ball rolling on the fuel system setup for this truck, trying to make the best decision on that. And we're gonna get the fuel pump here and start mocking all that up. We're gonna be doing a fuel cell. I don't wanna go as far as we done on that truck. Obviously, we've already pulled the cab on this and we've already taken it that far. I'm not gonna go to the extent of sandblasting the frame on this thing and painting it with that extremely expensive paint. Let's check out the roll cage and keep this going. So if you're new to the videos, you don't really want to go back and look at everything. This is a 1997 Ford F-250 that had a 7.3 Power Stroke and an automatic E4OD transmission in it. I bought this truck originally just to have a, you know, cool little daily driver that was kind of quick. Drove it for a couple years, blew out the transmission, pulled the motor out, put it in my crew cab. Let it sit for 3 years. Here we are. Taylor talked me into this, building something like that, but a way worse version of it. We whacked the frame 11 inches and we are going to be whacking the bed sides 11 inches. So it's kind of like a schmedium bed truck. If you want to do the short bed, you cut 16 inches out. Obviously this was a long bed truck. I want to go in between. But the funniest thing about this truck is we have these bashed in fenders. You know, I like to get a little rowdy at my house and I didn't really care about this truck until it was time to care about it. And I kind of regret it, obviously. But we are going to be installing that fender back on this truck. I'm not replacing anything. It's kind of funny, these two trucks, we have a white truck with orange paint bleeding through, and then this truck is white with green paint bleeding through. I think it's hysterical. I think it's kind of like character, so I ain't changing it, not painting a darn thing. But we do have the engine over here. It is a 7.3 liter Power Stroke, nothing too crazy. It's got new heads, it's got ARP head studs, Smith Bros push rods, comp valve springs, ARP main studs, ARP connecting rod studs, and the cam gear is TIG welded. Yeah, we painted it, got it all down to how we like it, and it looks extremely glossy. This paint is insane. I love it. But yeah, that's gonna be going back into this truck. See what we can do with this thing. We're gonna be building the transmission here in-house with Mr. Cody Fordall, which is probably a terrible idea, but we don't care. I can go to the junkyard and get another trans for 200 bucks, so not the end of the world. I knocked out some stuff in the last couple days. Got the roll cage all ready to be fully welded in, got the outriggers made. Dave came by and knocked those out of the park for me. Great dude. Sitting pretty straight. I mean, it's off by a little bit, but it doesn't really matter. But I wanted to talk about these awesome rear mounts on these Ford cabs. I ended up originally cutting the top of the head off to be able to pull the cab off, and they kind of acted as dowels until today. So I was like, oh, you know, I really gotta get that taken care of. I gotta get those out of there. So I found me an old exhaust manifold nut from a Cummins, which fit pretty perfectly on the top of the head. Welded it on, and then put a little bit of the weld puddle onto the cab to help me. I left this up in here on the nut like so, backed up against the cab. Went down low and stuck a torch on the bottom for, I don't know, a couple minutes, and then put the impact on it, ran it out. It's the first time I've ever had a Ford cab mount fight me. I mean, normally the trucks I'm working on are pretty new. Now I have a little bit of a dilemma when I cut this one out. I guess I cut it a little shy. It's gonna be close. I think it's gonna weld itself to the cab. So, worst case scenario, I'll cut it back out. A little some like that. So now I'm gonna get the MAP gas torch out. I'm gonna nuke that, get it as hot as I can without having it rain down melting rubber on my hands like it tried to over here on this other one. See, like that. That stuff will hurt. Why is it picking up the cap? Oh, I know why. Because I welded it to the cap. Now I'll take the old handy dandy grinder and cut that tack, and it should fall right off. Boom, just like that. I didn't like some of the fitment on some of the bars that I notched just because, you know, I've never really notched anything. This is my second time using a notcher. It's extremely difficult to be able to make everything like a mirror image of each other and like make a really good notch to where it's like a perfect form around the pipe. You know how it goes. You just got to keep trying until you get a little bit better. This one is probably one of the best right there. But yeah, it's hard to accomplish, trying to make sure that I get the best fitment for the final weld. There are some things that are gapped a little bit, but I mean, I'm running out of material. That door bar down there has a gap. I don't know if we're gonna be able to make it work, but yeah. Got a lot of things a lot more tight. Like these ones are a little bit tighter. I put these rear bars in to hold the main hoop at a certain angle that I wanted it at, and then I could keep going, but they're just simply tacked. They broke a few times just because I don't want a crazy tack on it that I have to deal with. So yeah, making some serious progress today. Hopefully maybe today or tomorrow I'll get the bed skins all cut up, whack the distance out of them that we need to make this into a schmedium bed, get some more tubing, start doing that. Skipped a few steps here. Got the schmedium bed on. The one side, obviously, it's not fully done yet. All this jack stands, all that stuff, that's just temporary. Looks pretty good though. It almost looks like we didn't do anything to it, which kind of sucks. We're looking pretty good. We went with a little bit thicker material this time, so the bed isn't so jiggly off-road or whatever we do with this thing. So I ended up taking 11 inches out of the bed, just like we did the frame, so that way it's all proportionate with the amount that we took out of the frame, so it looks right. And then that is actually 5 inches longer than a short bed and 11 inches shorter than a long bed. So it's kind of like the perfect little mixture, more or less, on the short bed side. I think it looks pretty good. I mean, for couple of cutoff wheels and some time, it's kind of a cool modification. Yeah, we're getting this thing rolling. I think this is going to be a pretty fun truck. The bed's a little leany boy and a little bit this way at the back, but of course that's all adjustable. Just got to keep going and until I find the point where I'm like, okay, now I got to add kicker bars and keep going. But I did end up welding a L bracket to the back of the cab in order to hold the front. Little progress update. The bottom of the bed sides don't have any supports yet. It's just the top, but I mean, this thing's looking pretty cool. I like it a lot. I ended up saving the diamond plate bed caps. This is the rear one. It's gonna need some trimming to make it look a little bit better. Yes, the yellow spray paint will be staying. That adds character. After 4.5 weeks, we have a visitor.
I just wanted to get this on video. I am releasing myself and the SpeedLab LLC from any future damages that may occur after I weld this. I'm not a pro welder, and Bryce doesn't care, and he said just weld it. So, I'm welding it. Not too shabby, not too shabby. But, oh, there we go. But yeah, this video just releases me of liability.
If it was Dave, I'd feel better, but
yeah. Yeah, he'd be alright.
My welds look so good. Oh my god. Call me if you need suspension laid out. Do not call me if you need something welded. Getting the frame all wire wheeled, getting it ready for some paint. Clean this thing up a bit just to where it's a little bit more presentable. You know, we did not sandblast this. Did not go the lengths that we did on this truck. Kind of because this truck's a little bit of a turd. A little bit worse off than the other one. But yeah, we're gonna get it all cleaned up. Shoot it with some semi-gloss black paint. Make it look as best as we can and keep on going. Next, I'm gonna tackle the firewall, get the vacuum booster off. We'll keep on going from there. Ran out of welding wire last night. I ran over to Norco this morning. Got us some more welding wire so we can get this all done. Taylor's doing a great job. He thinks he sucks, but that's way better than I could have done, so. Now we're smelling what the rock is cooking. A little something like that. It's extremely hard to hold the seat in there and sit it on wood and sit in there like you actually would, and then kind of have to base that upon how you want to sit. It's just a little hard, but that's what we're looking at. Gonna get some square tube, run it across the seat mounting bars, get some hardware and get some new seats. Pulled this out of the other truck just so we have something to base this on, and I like it. Got the seats all in. Seats. Got my mock-up seat out of the race truck in here, and threw together this little railing system real quick for the seats. Gives me a base to mount to, and actually it's reinforcing this whole thing down low, so that's good. But definitely not too shabby.
on my progress for the welds. Going from the bed to this is definitely a lot better. I'm happy on that. Did have to grind the front welds down so the seat would sit flat because I'm not that good enough yet. Figured I'd do a little Summit Racing haul for you guys. I ran down there and got some stuff to build the steering shaft for this truck and the steering wheel assembly. So what I ended up doing was getting a 3/4 double D to 3/4 double D Borgeson steering joint with a All-Star 3-bolt quick release to bolt onto the back of the Summit Racing steering wheel itself. And I got myself 3 feet of double D 3/4. We're gonna whip this thing up. Should be pretty simple. What's insane is that this is $80. This thing cost 80% of the price of the steering wheel. That's wild to me. So when it comes to mounting this steering wheel, I'm gonna have to come up with some sort of bracket that I weld onto the dash bar itself that will come down and hold this Heim joint, which then in return, the 3/4 inch shaft will go through the Heim joint, and that will act as my mounting system to get the wheel wherever I want it. And then I have a little bit of adjustment because of the threads on here. I'm gonna weld the jam nut up onto the piece of steel that I'm gonna use, and then I'll be able to run this nut down to kind of pinch it in there. But I'm just looking at this, trying to come up with the best idea to make it look aesthetically pleasing. I think in the meantime, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come up with something that I just tack up on there just so I can see if I like where it is. This is kind of a hard thing for me to figure out. I wanna do like a triangular design on both sides. Maybe like a spider web like Cody Fordall's truck was. I don't really have that good of a collection of scrap material here, so I'm gonna see what I can come up with and kind of mount this temporarily. I might put a ratchet strap up just to hold it so I can act like I'm driving it and go from there. I don't want it to be ugly or not useful, if that makes sense. And I also want it to be not too big because I want to be able to get up in and out of here pretty easily. I do have a quick disconnect steering wheel. I still got to put the attention into that just to make sure that when I swing my leg up in here, I don't smash my leg into something that's extremely boxy and kind of hideous. So see what we can come up with and we'll go from there. Came up with this little design just for now. Obviously, this is temporary for people that are going to freak out and be like, oh, that looks terrible. Well, yeah, no duh. So I do have to do another mount down here to be able to stop this motion. So I think I'm going to tee into the brackets for the vacuum booster where the brake rod goes through. That should be pretty simple, nothing too crazy, just right off the side of that bracket, straight down, Heim joint, hold it, not a big deal at all. And this is what we're looking at here. This is how much room I got. The other thing that I just noticed, so when I have the steering wheel on, if I'm sitting here trying to hit the gas, my knee is gonna hit. So I think I'm gonna have to go back to the drawing board, maybe bring this out a little bit, away from the pivot point of my knee. We'll try that, or I'm just gonna bring it up enough to where I can hit the gas. I tend to like a steering wheel that's nice and low. I don't know why, and pretty close to me. So like every time I drive a Razor, it's got to be all the way down pretty much as far out as it can go, just because I like to be nice and short with my motions instead of reaching extremely far out and trying to swing the wheel. I want it to be as close as possible. That way there's little room for error. Now with the throttle in, realized I had a little bit more room than I thought. So what I ended up doing was just, if you do see, there is nothing holding this from sliding in and out, so I'm going to get like a slip joint that goes over here with a jam nut, and I'll put it on both sides, that way it can't go in and out. But I ended up pulling the steering wheel back towards me just a tad bit, that way I can get it all adjusted and figured out. But yeah, I got plenty of room. Like I said, want it to be a little tight. My shifter's going to go over here, just like we did in the other truck. I have a shifter assembly for it from my other truck when it used to have a ratchet shifter in it. So we'll be putting that in here. That's what we're working with right there. Double Heim to brace the whole column. That'll ensure that it doesn't walk around or do anything weird. But of course, I weld it all up, and the weld you'll never ever see is the best one I've ever done. Of course, that's just how it goes. Again, not a welder. Learning to be. No other way for me to learn than to do it myself and ruin everything. Now we're gonna figure out how to prevent it from slipping. I think I have an idea. People might not like it, but it's gonna work. These should work pretty good. I just took a 3/4 inch GM nut, drilled out the threads with a 3/4 inch bit, and then drilled and tapped them for a 3/8/16 set screw. So I'm gonna pick the lower or upper heim joint. The heim joint will be over the 3/4 inch shaft, and then these will butt up to either side so it cannot go down or up inside the heim joint, so it'll hold it stable. I was originally going to throw a bolt through the slip shaft down here, but then I was thinking, I'm like, well, when the cab's vibrating and moving, I'm gonna feel it inside. So I'd rather mount that rigid and have this absorb the shock load from the cab moving around and hitting bumps, so I don't feel it in the steering wheel per se. We got our slip eliminators installed. I wish that the actual set screws themselves were a little bit smaller, but for $3.99, that is something I'm not going to complain about. I triangulated the bracket to ensure that there was as minimal left and right play as possible, just with some random sheet metal that I had laying around. Did a couple of welds, not too stoked on that. But for a quick release that's relatively cheap, I mean, I know it's not the best thing on the market. You just slide that on. She's good to go. A little sloppy, but I mean, for how cheap it was, I'm not gonna complain. I need to trim the horn button, put that back in, that way it looks all finished up. But yeah, we're looking pretty good now that we got both the upper and lower brackets installed. It's pretty easy to turn this thing because it's so light and there's no engine in it, so really hoping that this works out for me. I think I'm gonna build a little bracket to mount the steering wheel to. That way when it's disconnected, it's got a place to go. I don't know. I see that you can buy them from Summit and stuff like that, but I feel like I can just whip one up with a little bit of a bent piece of rod or something like that.
It's been a while since I filmed. I've got a lot of progress done on this. Taylor and I got the firewall, we got it repainted. We painted the inside of the fenders, painted the front of the frame, painted the back of the frame. We got some brake lines to make. I gotta plumb the fuel system, get a fuel cell. I dropped off a whole bunch of stuff for the engine to powder coat yesterday, chose a color. That's probably the hardest thing I've ever done because I am a neutral colored person. I like super simple, clean. I am not a red, green, purple, orange, yellow, blue, any of that. I don't like any of that. It's nothing against anybody that likes it. It's just me. I like simple. We got our fuel system in from AirDog. We've been working on that. What we're gonna be running on this truck is a Riff Raff 4-port feed and an AirDog 5G 165 pump. I've been trying to film as much as I can, but I also don't want to bore everybody with the same 5 videos that we made about the other truck, so I'm trying to speed this process up a little bit because it's the same exact thing.
It's not what is on the outside that matters. It's on the inside. I'm gonna straighten that fender out a little bit just so I can get the hood on. Engine bay's looking good. These fenders are atrocious. There's so many holes and things in them, I can't believe that. I painted the vacuum booster satin black. It was gloss black. I like it satin a little bit more. That's pretty cool. Gonna get this all painted up from here over, across, maybe down to like right here. We'll make a hard line just because it's gonna have the giant intercooler and the plastic that goes up front to mount the headlights and all that. So fixed my brake line, went down to Summit and got 2 male fittings and a female, put them together, made it work. We have a special guest on the video today, Mr. Tristan Gurney.
We apparently are going to buy a Stewart & Stevenson 1078. I don't know how it happened, but we're here, and we have to drive back 500 miles through a winter snowstorm. So luckily, we've got a diesel mechanic.
Ooh.
Who, I think we're supposed to find them somewhere in Eugene, Oregon.
I feel like if I put $100 in here, I could make it into 0. You think I could?
I sure could.
Let's hear how loud it is when it hits.
It's going to be the last.
That is it.
That's not it.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Dude, that thing fell with some vengeance.
That's not it.
Are you sure?
No, I'm not. That might be it.
Gurney, Tristan,
It's it.
that thing about broke the other suitcase in half.
We did it. We're here.
Did what?
It's real.
What, the green minivan?
We bought this Toyota.
We bought the Corolla. I'm so excited. That would be a nice vehicle to drive for 9 hours.
That would be.
Or
Good fuel mileage.
Or the Ram 1500.
More than 58 miles
Or
per hour.
the crew cab short bed gasser.
All right, you don't
But
have to rub it in.
the problem
Any
is-
vehicle would have been better.
The problem is we didn't end up with that. We ended up with a Model 3. No, actually, what we ended up coming here for was...
Shaking the ground.
Oh my God. Dude, it's big. Stayed out here in,
Wetlands.
dude, everything inside that is completely soaked. We're not from the humid climate. We're from extremely dry, so jumping in the back of that, the carpet was wet, all of our luggage was wet, the cardboard was wet. There's
Like
a
an
box
inch of water on that window.
Yeah, it's disturbing. There's a cardboard box in there, and him and I were laughing so hard last night because when you squeezed it, it wouldn't like crumble, it would just like softly go into a perfect ball. But there's a humidity gauge in there. It says 98% when we got in there last night. Disturbing. Letting her warm up before we traverse back through the mountains.
It's coming out of mechanic mode.
You guys sold us a lemon.
Lemon. It's got like 5 gallons of something on it.
Nasty. It's a cat. They leak. When they don't leak, that's when you got a problem. Sucks because it's all stuck to the trans, so it looks like it's the trans, but it's not. Of course, everything's disgustingly soaked, so you can't just crawl in there and look. This is fun. We have a hole in the oil pan.
Hey, what are you doing up there?
Me? Trying to figure out if this compares to Exxon Valdez or not. All the way to the rear axle. It's everywhere. So unfortunately, we're gonna be checking the oil again just because I wanna be safe. See the microfiber right there? Because these were not that dirty. Now they're completely soaked. Problem is we don't really have a choice but to keep going. So we're just gonna keep making sure that it's got oil, and then when we get back to town, we're gonna drive it straight to the car wash and just get this thing cleaned up from underneath. But that's the glories of buying stuff used. You never know what you're gonna get. And unfortunately, this guy's trying to pull a fast one on us, I can tell you that much. But I mean, that thing is puking. We've been trying to get a judgment on how much it's leaking this whole time, but every time we pull over, the road is completely soaked, so all we see is a rainbow. Fun.
Wonderful.
Now you're gonna get to learn how to be a diesel mechanic.
Well, we're here. We're committed. No going back now. What do I do with my hands? All right, guys. There it is. There's the truck back in Reno. Again, the intentions are to build this into a camper vehicle, thinking of bed, dinette, full kitchen, just basically motorhome that can go anywhere. But first, we need to get that oil problem fixed. We got a blanket underneath there right now because it is an absolute mess.
The never-ending saga of this truck. Happy Thanksgiving, want to get that out of the way. This thing's been making me upset. Scored a bumper off Facebook Marketplace for $100. I was super excited about that. And then I start looking at it, I pull the bumper off this thing, and I'm like, oh, the brackets are completely different. These holes are not in the center, they're lowered and at an angle, and then these are straight and pretty much in the center. So apparently 90s Broncos rear bumper are different than the F-250 trucks, but we got a problem with this truck, taking a little bit of a break from the single cab. This truck's only making 12 pounds of oil pressure at cold start and when it's hot. So I think I'm having an issue with the oil cooler that I replaced the oil pressure regulator. I believe there's something wrong with it, so I'm gonna get this thing all torn apart, but I just wanted to say thanks for watching the Speed Labs videos. Kind of trying to compete with the last video that I made. Not really going to be able to do that until we do something cool. So I'm going to be working on that. It's the day after Thanksgiving. Try to enjoy a little bit of free time, get some stuff done around the house. You guys got to go check out my cousin Tristan's YouTube channel. He's going to be building that giant military truck into an off-grid RV. He's extremely intelligent and extremely educated when it comes to building those off-road vehicles and building it into an RV. He's got a few underneath his belt, and this time he's going no expense spared. He's going to be using the best products on the market. Kind of excited for him. Going to be helping him out on his journey as much as possible. He took me along for the ride just in case anything went wrong, which it did. I hated it. But we're definitely going to be pushing some more videos here soon. Got to get that truck all buttoned up at the shop. Going to be collaborating with a few people and making that truck as fun as we can for
as little amount of money as we can spend on it. But yeah, I would make a full feature video on this thing, but I cannot stand it. I'm very upset with the way that it has been behaving. 12 psi of oil pressure, not good. I mean, it runs good. I can drive it around town, but worst case scenario, I'm gonna have to put another motor in it, and I'm really not looking forward to that if that's the if that's the consensus. And don't forget, at 1,000 subscribers, we're giving away a Yeti cooler, the one with the wheels, any color your choice. Drop ship it to your house. We appreciate everything. You guys have been killing it, sharing it across all platforms. We're growing pretty quick on Instagram. YouTube's a little bit of a challenge, but we're going to be pushing as hard as we can. Sucks because I want to create the best content, the most entertaining content, but right now it's kind of hard just because we're in the middle of building another vehicle. So it's just going to be another few episodes of building that, and then we can take those two things out and enjoy them together. I think I have a chance against Taylor's truck, but realistically, I don't. He's got double the power that I have, and I'm going to pick on him as much as I can, but realistically, it's just a waste of my time. I'm just going to break something in the process of getting embarrassed. But yeah, Taylor, I'm coming for you. I'm going to sabotage you and lower your fuel pressure or something. I'm going to figure it out, and I'm going to make sure that I do get my taillights out in front of you, which I'll regret because he's going to... See, this is how this always goes. I make fun of him. One of my friends or somebody will be like, oh, I'm faster than you. And then he just like goes crazy and orders a whole bunch of stuff. And then next thing you know, I'm busy for 3 months and building something absolutely ridiculous. So we'll see how it goes.